men, women, children, whoever you are, everyone's welcome to it. Your boy Peter here, aka Peter Freakout 10, baby, bringing you guys our episode of the Movie Review Show, where the good movies are always reviewed. Alright, back again to our movie review. Now, on today's episode, today's review is another I figured I'd do in preparation for the sequel to this film, which I do plan to check out Friday, along with another film I plan to review, Supernova. But before that, I figured it was time to talk about this film. And this is a film that I've been waiting to review for a long time. I'm actually surprised that I've never reviewed it, being that this film has become a cult film in the eyes of many filmmakers, the online community, as now there are memes dedicated to the film, and many people have referenced the film, and it's become a favorite among the African American community. Not to say that just black people enjoy it, but also the Caucasian crowd as well. I mean, movies can be enjoyed by anybody, but I think it really shows its power that not only is a film relatable to one side, but it's relatable to everybody. And I think it really shows the legacy of this film and that the love that people have for it. And what film is that, you may be asking? That film is none other than Friday, baby. Hell yes. A lot can go down between Thursday and Saturday, and this film proves it. And here we finally are talking about it. So, grab yourself a big mixing bowl of cereal. Be sure you got the milk. Grab your weed. Make sure it's not someone else's. And let's get on the porch with your laptop and talk Friday. Now, Friday, this is a film made in the year 1995, and it's directed by F. Gary Gray. Now, F. Gary Gray, this is actually his directorial debut, as before this, he was mostly a music video director for people like Usher, Cypress Hill, Coolio, and the man himself, Ice Cube, which is how he got the job for this film. After this, he would go on to direct Set It Off with Queen Latifah and Jada Pinkett. He also directed a film called The Negotiator, which I haven't seen, but I heard it was very good. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people know Friday already. They know its production. But for those who don't know, Friday's origin actually came from the main lead himself, Ice Cube, and his friend DJ Pooh, the other writer of this film. And it all started at the start of the 90s. And the crime hood movies are taken off with Boys in the Hood, which also starred Ice Cube, as well as Colors. They were both noticing that while these films were getting great reviews and were deserving of those great reviews, they were missing the lighthearted element that they actually experienced in their childhood living in the hood, and decided to write a sort of stoner, raunchy well, I wouldn't say raunchy, because this film is anything but raunchy from what I hear. The sequel looks like it's going in that route. But a sort of slice of life stoner comedy that they drew from their own childhood, with their objective being to make what they called the ultimate hood classic that could be watched over and over again. Seeing what Kevin Smith did with Clerks, they decided to set the film over the course of a day, and they of course picked the day Friday, with Ice Cube even drawing inspiration from his own life that he implemented into the story. Once the script was finished, they became the worry that a big studio wouldn't finance the film, as at the time they were really inexperienced as filmmakers, with the original intention being to fund the film themselves and shoot it in black and white, with the original intention of having DJ Pooh play Smokey. But then they tried their luck with New Line Cinema, as they saw the success that they had with House Party, a film made in a similar way to this film, and they agreed to get behind the film, but felt DJ Pooh as Smokey wasn't going to work and requested someone else play the part. This is where Chris Tucker comes into play, as the duo came across as Def Comedy Jam and had him come into audition. However, the first audition was a disaster, but was offered to try again at a later date, which they did over dinner, and there he got the part. The only thing left to do was find a director, which Ice Cube himself was given the choice to pick, and he went with F. Gary Gray, being that he already had history with him being that he worked with him on his music videos, and he was looking to get into Hollywood and directing feature films. Despite being scared that he would be directing Ice Cube, he took the job, and once all that was taken care of, New Line greenlit the film with a budget of $3.5 million, a much higher budget than that of Clerks, throwing out the idea of shooting the film in black and white. The movie itself was shot in F. Gary Gray's childhood neighborhood, with some of the houses they used to shoot in, as well as the exterior shots being friends of him, one in particular being his childhood home. Despite having New Line backing the film, they still didn't have the money for a camera riser and somewhere to store production gear, so they had to use John Witherspoon's animal control truck for that stuff. During the making of the film, the cast improvised a lot of their lines, something of which Chris Tucker did a lot of. This one for a period of 20 days. Despite New Line distributing the film, though, I doubt they were expecting much from the movie, thus why there wasn't a big marketing campaign. But I think they regret that decision, as on April 28, 1995, it opened to number 2 at the box office behind While You Were Sleeping with Bill Pullman and Sandra Bullock, grossing over $6 million in a single weekend. So it made 2.5 times its budget and finished its run with over $27 million, which I think helped because, much like Clerks, it was a small budget, and because of that, it helped get the film the big hit that it was. On top of that, the film received positive reviews from critics. On Rotten Tomatoes, it is a 77%. Critics praised the film for its humor, which they felt carried the film forward despite not having the huge flair behind it, and its directing being that F. Gary Gray at the time wasn't an experienced director and its small budget. But they also praised the film, similarly like Clerks, for a slice of life outlook on hood life and its characters. There were some critics, though, who didn't find the film funny. Gene Siskel in particular, who found the film offensive, pointing to the opening scene with the old ladies and Ice Cube at the door. And I think that says a lot about Gene Siskel, especially at the time. He was giving Chris Farley shit, which, fuck you for that, Gene Siskel, comparing him to John Belushi. I liked your reviews, but not only that, your bullshit on the Friday 13th movies and the shit you said about Betsy Palmer, shame on you for that. And the shit you did to the Silent Night, Deadly Night people. So, yeah, and to say this film's not funny, fuck you, man. I'm sorry to say. But after it came to video was when it really started to gain a cult following, as on that side it carries a 91%, and on IMDb it is a 7.2 out of 10. So really shows the cult following that this film had, and really shows who didn't like the film were wrong. I know that's mean, but, or those that didn't like the film didn't understand it. And on top of that, it had several nominations from MTV Movie Awards after its release, and its success is when Ice Cube pushed for a sequel for the longest time, which, because of particular conflicts with the studio and New Line and Chris Tucker stuff going on, it didn't happen till now with Next Friday. So yeah, the film, regardless of who you talk to, is a cult classic. Now, what more can be said about Friday that hasn't already been said, and what I didn't say the past few minutes? It's a comedy stoner classic. And much like Mallrats, this is another one of my all-time favorite comedies, and totally deserves the cult following it has received. And I have a very, very funny history with this film. I saw it right when I was entering middle school. I remember my cousin had the film and I wanted to give it a watch. Unfortunately, he was like, no, your mother will kill me if I showed you this film, because he got it after it came out. And I was interested in it. I will be honest with you. I was very, very interested in it. I thought the cover looked funny. I thought the cast looked interesting. I mean, I knew who Ice Cube was from around the time because I came across his rap videos on MTV but I didn't see him act. I didn't even think he was acting. I mean, I didn't know Boys in the Hood, but I figured, you know what, it was cool to see him take on a movie, but I couldn't watch it until I had entered high school, and I totally see why this film gets the respect it deserves. And even though people have been giving this film the respect it deserves, and the memes have been kind of giving it a lot more attention because a lot of people who have never seen this film are going out to check it out based on those memes. I don't think the memes do the film justice because the film is beyond those memes. Because it's not just a funny ass movie, but much like Clerks, it has a real down-to-earth slice-of-life view on living in the hood, and it's done so in a way much like Clerks, whereas Clerks was relatable to anybody working in a convenience store and dealing with the toughness of that day and just the annoying customers. This is a real down-to-earth slice-of-life view of living in the hood. And it's done so in a way that I think makes it relatable to those who have lived in this area or lived in an area similar to this film. So the film appeals to both sides of the spectrum, regardless of the skin color. And I think that's why it has such a never-ending legacy on both sides, beyond being as funny and quotable as it is. But I'll explain why later, though. But with the cast in this film, like I said, you got Ice Cube playing Craig, who I said was also the writer of this film. Before this, he was in Boys in the Hood. He would go on to be in Anaconda, and he would reprise his role as Craig in the sequel next Friday, which, like I said, I do plan to check out tomorrow. You have Chris Tucker, who before this was in House Party 3. He was in Jackie Brown. He was also in Money Talks. He would go on to be in the first Rush Hour, which kind of plays into why he didn't reprise his role for the sequel next Friday, because after this film, he became a born-again Christian and thought doing the character of Smokey would go against his religion. Thus why he was sort of like, I'm going to do Rush Hour more. So yeah, kind of sad about that, but I'm willing to see how Mike Epps does. You also have Johnny Witherspoon. Speaking of House Party, he had a small role in House Party. He's the dude living under the house that's telling them to be quiet while the party's going on. He would be in Vampire in Brooklyn. He was also in Boomerang with Eddie Murphy. He would also reprise his role in the sequel as well. You have Tommy Tiny Zeus Lister Jr. from The Fifth Element. He had a small role in Jackie Brown. He would also reprise his role in the sequel. You also have Nia Long from the TV show Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where she played two particular characters. Boys in the Hood, she was also in Buried Alive. And you have other members of the cast too. You have Regina King, who would go on to be an Enemy of the State with Will Smith. Fazone Love from The Meteor Man. DJ Pooh, the writer of this film, actually has a role in this as a different character from what he was supposed to play. Tony Cox from Leprechaun 2 is also in this. Bernie Mac from House Party 3, Don't Be a Menace to the South Central While Drinking Your Juice, and even Booty Call. Hell, you even have a small role from A Pre-Green Mile, Michael Clark Duncan. It's a real blink and you miss it role because he's just in the background and you have to squint really close to see it. But when you see it, you see he's there. I believe he was also the stand-in for Tommy Tiny Zeus Lister in a couple scenes. I could be wrong there, but that's what I've heard. Now, the plot of this film is basically, it's Friday and we meet Craig, played by Ice Cube, who should be excited that the weekend is around the corner, but things are getting off to a really bad start as we learn that the day before he got fired from his job on his day off of all days and is struggling to figure out where to take his life, being that now he's the subject of ridicule from his family, mostly his father, played by John Witherspoon, who works as a dog catcher. And in the midst of contemplating where to go, his friend Smokey, played by Chris Tucker, who makes a living selling drugs, comes over and decides that since it's Friday and he's ain't got shit to do and no job, that the two should get high. Despite being hesitant at first, he goats Craig into getting high. However, this is where the problems arise, where we learn that the drugs that they're taking are drugs that Smokey was supposed to give to this guy named Big Worm, played by Fazone Love, who Smokey ends up dragging Craig into the problem by letting it slip that he was also getting high with him. So he gives him an ultimatum where basically, if you don't have $200 by 10 o'clock, he's going to kill the both of them. So now the two are basically trying to figure out how to get the money, all the while avoiding the eyes of the neighborhood bully Debo, played by Tommy Tiny Zeus Lister, who is willing to beat up anyone who gets in his way. Will the two be able to raise the money for the drugs by 10 o'clock and live to see Saturday? Or will Big Worm pop a big worm cap in both their asses? That came out worse than I thought. To emphasize my point about why I feel the memes don't do Friday justice is because while it's funny, I want to make that clear. While it's funny, I do feel the film is beyond just joke 24/7, because the film itself, I feel, speaks to the audience watching it and taps into a moment in their life that I feel that they have once experienced. And I think that's told through the neighborhood. I think at any point growing up, anybody has lived in a neighborhood similar to Craig and have come across at least one person similar to those in this film. And I think that's why it has such longevity outside of the African American community. To some, it may be less extreme, but you probably had someone who would get mad when you stepped on the grass of their yard. I'm pretty sure there was a woman like Miss Parker, too. Let's not kid ourselves. And I'm pretty sure there was that one dude who was selling drugs in your neighborhood. And the movie handles it in such a human way, it's relatable. And I think because Ice Cube and DJ Pooh have actually lived in this neighborhood, it makes it all the more genuine and doesn't step out of the rules that it establishes within the first few minutes of the film. And it's done perfectly, especially when it comes to the Craig character. I'm pretty sure at some point people watching this may have been fired from their job and unsure of where to take their life, where they felt down in the dumps, and maybe have been in the middle of a drug deal where you basically took someone's drugs and you're in the middle of that shit. But along with that, I also love that the film with the Craig character is a metaphor for Craig learning to mature and take matters into his own hands in the way that a man would. Like the scene in particular where he has to protect Smokey and he goes and gets the gun, and basically his father comes in and sees that and gives him the talk about how if you're gonna fight with your fists. A kid uses a gun. A man uses his fists. And I really love that. I really feel it adds this layer of grit to the story that was in Boys in the Hood that Ice Cube did, or even like later on Menace to Society. And it works with the story because the way it was written doesn't feel tone deaf or out of nowhere. But it's also rather enlightening to not just Ice Cube's character, but the viewer watching. So I really, really love that aspect of the story. I also got to give credit to how the film does its 3-act structure in the story, because it kind of helps play into the arc of Craig with each time of the day, morning, afternoon, and night. And in those moments, you kind of see Craig go through his arc. I thought it was a brilliant idea to kind of show him going through that particular arc at particular times of the day. With the morning, he's down in the dumps. He has no idea where to go. He's still a teenager eating cereal in the morning. Then the afternoon, he takes the smoke, which pushes the film problem into motion, and pretty much that's where the problem arises. And then by the third and final act, it's nighttime and he's fighting Debo, which kind of goes into the next day with Saturday. And I think that helped flow the film nicely, and it made it paced well. I think it made it feel like there was a lot going on, a lot at stake. And I know there were more scenes filmed, but I'm actually kind of glad they were deleted because I think they would have slowed the film down. And here, it never felt boring. So the pacing is extremely well, especially for a film like this, which may look like a film that I wouldn't be a huge fan of, especially another guy pointed this out, like these sort of black comedies I'm not really into, and some of them I just feel are paced weirdly. There's some good ones, don't get me wrong, but some of them I just can't get into because they just have this weird pace issue to them. I don't know if they're just too slow or they're not funny, so they just kind of feel like they go by a bit faster. Here, though, I think it does it the right way, so gotta give it that. And on top of that, and I'm gonna go here, I'm pretty sure a lot of people expected this, the film is really funny. Again, much like Clerks, the comedy comes from the fact that a lot of people have experienced something like this in their own neighborhood, or the crazy things going on in this movie's neighborhood that they can't help but laugh at. But the comedy also comes from the improvisational skills of the cast, their reaction to certain things going on in the neighborhood that I just mentioned, and the back and forth between Chris Tucker and Ice Cube and their camaraderie. Which all works because of Chris and Ice Cube's comedic timing. Chris especially, with how energized he is on screen, but still manages to rein himself in to a point that he's not too annoying, like in how he talks in particular moments, the long tangents that he goes on, those particular things. Or even the moment in particular when they're yelling and beating up the kid who runs home to his mom crying because he tipped over the garbage cans and they're taking matters into their own hand, which some people may be offended by, but I don't care. I found it funny. So yeah, that's why I feel like the film, while it's funny, and I could definitely see what people are talking about with the memes, I definitely feel like there's a lot more on the table that people don't notice that excels them above just the funny scenes that people have mentioned over and over again. Now, on a technical side, for a directorial debut by F. Gary Gray, I think he did a wonderful job on this film. He gives the film this really LA-like vibe through the color palette, which is what it's set in, the way he uses particular shots to signify the location they're in, like the opening with the shoes on the power line. You got that song, Trying to See Another Day. But he also does some really interesting stuff with the camera, like his placement of the camera, like when Debo is pulling up to the house and you have that dun, 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 and the camera's like on the side of the pedals as he's pulling in, or even his movement of the camera, like when the Jones family is introduced and he has the camera tracking through the house, peering into the bedrooms, showing us the character's personality or the family life, and it makes us feel like us, the viewer, in the house, even having the added effect of like someone is pushing the door open to reveal someone. When it comes to the more serious moments as well, he knows how to handle those moments. He knows how to work with gritty story elements and implement them into his direction to get that side of the film across, like the moment at the end with Craig and Debo and how he uses that moment to really show that they're face to face, and just the lighting in that scene, the use of darkness, because it was really night out when they shot that scene, and how he directs Tommy in that scene. His directing really complements aspects like that in the film, not just the comedic moments, which he also gets great comedic timing out of his cast, but also the serious moments that do work for this film and you wouldn't expect to be in a silly comedy like this. But I also think he gets a lot out of the location as well, being that this was his childhood neighborhood. So him and the crew were able to come and go and shoot whenever and direct the cast in that location. And with what little he had, especially being a good portion of the film takes place on the front porch of Craig's house, I think he made the most of it. I think he worked well with the budget at his disposal and really got a lot out of that location and the neighborhood and just the various places they were at. So yeah, it's easy to see why F. Gary Gray was chosen. And I feel Ice Cube made the right decision vouching for him to be in the film, because He has a love for material like this, and his talents are all on screen, and this film shows it. Along with that, I think he works great with the cast and gets a lot out of them. And of course, you got to start with the man himself, the man who helped bring this film to life, Ice Cube. And I'm somebody who has watched Ice Cube after this. As an actor, though, I'm going to sit here and say this. I think, honestly, this is his best performance. I mean, Boys in the Hood is Boys in the Hood, a classic, and I like Anaconda. But Friday is a film you can tell he put a lot of himself into with this film. And I think it works because at one point in his life, he felt like Craig. And because of that identifiability with the character, there's a lot of passion put into it. And he was really behind the character and his place in the film. And I think he delivers his role well. I think he's one that the audience at one point in their life have felt like at some point in their life being fired from a job and not feeling like doing too much with their life at a particular time. And I think Ice Cube gets that side across really well. And I think he works great with the comedy side of the story. The directing is able to get some great comedic timing out of him. But I also think he works great with the serious side of the film when that comes about. And I think that comes from the dramatic chops he got making Boys in the Hood. And he channeled it here in a way he was able to keep a straight face. But of course, you got to talk about the highlight of the film. And that being Chris Tucker as Smokey. I bet everyone saw this coming. He's the one who, when anybody talks about this film, he's the one that they quote. He's practically a part of all the memes done about this film. And it's because when everybody thinks of Friday, they think of Smokey and his quote. Every minute he is on screen, he is an energized time bomb that you never want to stop going off. And it shows how good he is at improv, and he knows how to deliver it in a way that's genuinely funny and not obnoxious, showcasing his talents at improv. And of course, you got the quips.
You got knocked the fuck out, man! Damn!
All of which directed greatly by Chris Tucker. I also really like the scene with the telephone call when he thinks this woman that he's getting a booty call from is Janet Jackson, but it's this fat woman, and just his reaction to that. And I think him and Ice Cube play great off each other. I think their chemistry together is great. Their camaraderie is fun to watch. And it's sad that he didn't come back for the next one. I'm hoping Mike Epps does his own thing with it and really makes it his own. But I doubt he can top Ice Cube and Chris's chemistry. We'll see, though. Tommy Tiny Zeus Lister, I thought was perfect as Debo. His height plays a part in his presence, so he's this tall-ass dude who rides this bike around the town. And he plays Debo with the presence of a school bully who's got a growl in his throat every time he talks. And whenever someone says something he disagrees with, he'll punch the shit out of him. He's definitely someone you don't want to fuck with. And he does that really, really well. John Witherspoon does a great job playing Pops as a father who wants what's best for his son and isn't afraid to open his mouth and call out his son's stupidity. But just like Ice Cube, when the drama moments kick in, he works great there too, especially the scene when he's giving his son the talk about how we spoke with our fists and not a gun. Besides that, other actors, you got Nia Long as this girl named Debbie, who's Ice Cube's love interest. She's not in the film too much. In fact, she really doesn't become much of a central figure till the end of the film. That's when she decides to stand up to Debo. But I thought she did that scene especially well. I like her sort of anger that she flew at him and says some things that I cannot say on this channel because I don't want people coming after me, because it starts with the big no word that only people of a certain color can use. And her and Ice Cube do well together too. Despite what little time they have together, I think they do have a sort of cute relationship, like after he's fought Debo and she helps him up. Bernie Mac is also in this as a preacher who does drugs on the side. He's funny. Especially like his scene when he gets chased out of the house because he's sleeping with Miss Parker, and Tony Cox comes home. Speaking of which, Tony Cox is Miss Parker's husband, this little short guy who, when he finds all that out, he starts throwing her clothes out. That scene was funny. Fazone Love is Big Worm. He does well for what he's given. Another one, Maria Horsford, once again, well for what she's given. She's just there to be the mother and scream, get up when Craig is attacked. Regina King as Ice Cube's sister. She's, well, I guess, nothing much to her. Michael Clark Duncan, nice to see him before the Green Mile. He does his role fine, even though it's a blink and you miss a role. But the acting is very good. Even the ones that are given very small performances, they do well for what they're given. Which is why, for me, I have very little to talk about with their characters in those moments. But this is a solid comedy, and I totally get its place in history and why people are holding it in such high regard. I don't get the complaint that people are like, oh, it doesn't hold up, so it's not funny. I don't give a shit if something doesn't hold up or not. It's a product of its time, and what matters is that if I enjoy it, if I have fun watching it. I'm not speaking for anybody who is offended by the film. What's funny to me is funny to me. I don't like the whole does it hold up, does it not. And this film, as a film, I think it's a great movie. It has its problems. One that I touched upon earlier, but I'm going to get deeper into is Big Worm. He really doesn't have that much of a villain arc as he could have had. We only get 2 scenes establishing he's a villain, and it's just told, and it's not even like he's defeated, because he's just paid, spoiler, he's just paid the money, and then that's the end of the film. There really isn't anything else to really get across how much of a threat he is. In fact, the film is more focused on Debo being a central villain in the film. And if anything, Debo should have been the one who should have been the main villain. Because there's more to him and more of an arc to him than it is with Big Worm. But if they put more of him in there, I think that it would have made the film discombobulated. So I can understand that. But a little bit there could have helped the film in his presence. It made him a bit more threatening. But for what it is, it's fine. That's really my only problem with the film, though. Because bottom line, Friday is a modern-day classic that deserves its place in the Comedy Hall of Fame. And it's one film that I find myself putting on again and again and never getting tired of it. And like I said, the memes don't do the film justice. If you've only seen the film through the memes, you're missing out. I highly recommend you check out Friday. It's one of my all-time favorite comedies. So, when it comes down to the final verdict, I give Friday a 9.8 out of 10, and it deserves it. It therefore gets the Alexandra seal of approval. Definitely one to check out if you like these sort of stoner comedies, or if you like Ice Cube. I guarantee you'll get a kick out of it. So, yeah. Let's just hope next Friday is as funny as this film, or funny in its own way, to make it worth watching. We'll find out tomorrow, though, after Supernova. But that's my review for Friday. And next time, I do have the End of Days review coming along the way. I just filmed that, and that'll be editing soon. But I am going to keep to my promise to review Chasing Amy. That's a review that's coming soon. Dogma will also be reviewed. I also have a review coming of Supernova and next Friday, so be on the lookout for those. But in terms of video games, one I beat recently, Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, finally got this beat, and now I can finally review it. This is a game that I've been wanting to review for a very long time. I'm going to start getting my notes together because I just beat it yesterday, and the parts will be uploaded, and once I get the notes uploaded, you guys will be seeing my review on Turok 2. But for right now, I will see you guys later. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of Friday. Do you guys hold it to the same standard I do? Is it a classic for you? I'd love to know you guys' thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.